you've come with the wrong motive. It's selfish. It's for you. It's all about you then. It's all about your broken relationship. It's about your crumbling marriage. It's about your financial situation. You're coming to Jesus so that he's going to fix things. Instead of saying, well, you know the reason that your marriage is crumbling is because you're a sinner. And begin to sit down and talk with the individual about the particular situation that's going on. You know, if you weren't a womanizer, your wife wouldn't have left you. If you weren't just, if you would realize, and so we have all kinds of people coming to Jesus to fix things when they haven't even been confronted yet with their own part of the problem. And here's something else that I'm sure that you know, and that is that the reason that we come to Jesus is because he deserves all of our worship. He is holy and he is pure. He is righteous. Will things get better? They may. But ask a man that's writing this letter in prison if everything is going to turn out just great because you've come to Jesus. Ask a guy that's going to be murdered because he's a Christian. If turning to Jesus Christ is going to right every wrong in your life. Paul knew that that wouldn't happen, but that didn't slow him down one bit in his worship and service to the Lord. So Timothy, there are some out there teaching the law or the Word of God who don't even get it themselves. And if they don't understand it, then how in the world are they going to be able to relate it to other people? We're going to have a classic example of the blind leading the blind. Verse 8. But we know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous person, but for the lawless and the insubordinate, and for the ungodly and for the sinners, for the unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for fornicators, for sodomites, for kidnappers, for liars, for perjurers, and if there's any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, according to the glorious gospel, the blessed God, which was committed to my trust. He says the law has a purpose. The law has a use. The law is for the lawless, those that are without the law. They don't know the law. And for the insubordinate, those who do know the law and oppose it. Now again, with those estimates of so many people going to churches in America on a regular basis, I'm forced to conclude that there are some churches out there that have not accurately taught the law. That's what Paul was talking about. There are some that are out there teaching it, and they don't even understand it themselves. So how is it that in their teaching, the hearer is going to walk away and saying, I've got a handle on this. I know it. I see what's going on. Because there are those who regularly attend churches and who also believe that they will spend eternity in heaven, and they live in an adulterous relationship. Paul just addressed that. They're either without the law or they're contrary to the law. They're insubordinate to the law. They're fornicators, he said. The law is for them. Share the law with them. Make sure that they understand that that is a sin. That's part of the 10 Commandments, that you're not to do those kinds of things. It's an affront to a holy God who gave you life. As a matter of fact, there are some churches that cater to a homosexual community. The word was sodomite in here. Literally, it means a male prostitute, but it's including that homosexual community. And so there are people who are either without the law or who are feverishly working against the law, who oppose the law. They're insubordinate to the law. And there are people who are standing in pulpits who fit that same bill. And whatever it is that they're spewing, they're giving false information to people and paving a broad pathway that leads to eternal damnation. And there's a lot of people following it. So, Tim, teach this gospel that God has entrusted to me. I now entrust it to you. And charge those in your church, commission them to go out and to teach it in the highways and byways of life, in their neighborhoods, in their workplaces, so that people will know. Because there are many who are perishing on a daily basis, and the numbers are staggering of those that are going into eternity who will never see Jesus Christ, who will spend all of eternity weeping, gnashing of teeth, because they are either without the law or they're opposed to it. So teach the word. Charge others in the church to go about and to teach it themselves. There are people in our society who are filled with hate and blame for their parents. And our pop psychology caters to that kind of thing. So we've got psychology being taught from the pulpits all across America and giving people excuses for their sinful behavior. Or when it comes to, how a parent taught or treated a grown child today. Well, the reason that I act this way or think this way or whatever it is because, my somebody else. And so they hate. And the law, Jesus explained the law, and he said that you've heard that thou shalt not murder, and I'm going to tell you something right now that you need to hear. If you hate your brother, you're guilty of that same sin. You've heard that you shouldn't commit adultery. Well, I'm going to tell you something that you've got to hear. If you look upon another person with a lustful heart, then you've already committed adultery with them in your heart. You're guilty of that same sin. We've got people who attend churches by great numbers, again, according to polls. And apparently, it's either not taught that thou shalt not lie, or they're opposed to the teaching. Because they'll perjure themselves in the workplace just to get ahead, just to climb another rung on the social ladder. And so, Timothy, use the law lawfully. Preach the gospel. Commission people in the church to go out and to do the same thing. You see, sound doctrine needs to be preached from the pulpits and repeated in the streets. The law, the 10 Commandments, need to be understood by those who love God with all their heart, with all their soul, with all their mind, with all their strength, and who love their neighbor as themselves. It needs to be understood and repeated over and over again. We need to share it with those who are without the law. And we also need to share it with the insubordinate, the disobedient, the unruly is another word. When grace is given to those who are without the law, then false conversions will take place. If I were here standing before you and making one of those kinds of pleas that I alluded to earlier, hey, you have a need? Well, try Jesus and he'll fix it. Or just ignoring the sin issue